Welcome to Oneness and Wellness. This is the second part of a program on money. And we're going to start with our guest, Marsha Reddington-Lawton. Also say hello to Lorraine Goldblum. And here we go. Marsha, you got the question.
The question that I have is, if there wasn't money, what would be showing up?
What would we do with ourselves?
What would we do with ourselves? What would it look like if money was not there?
If money was out there, you know, it's hard to, I don't know, it's hard to imagine because everything we're talking about today really isn't about the money itself, about the currency. It's about the exchange and the issues that come up around that exchange. So if we went to a system of bartering, I would suggest that then we'd have the same kinds of issues show up looking in a different way. Then we would have values on different services and judgments about that and all of that. So, you know, that's what they say, that money isn't the answer to our problems. You know, I think that's true. I mean, it can certainly help. It can make things easier. There's a lot of wonderful things about money, but I suspect that we would still have those fundamental issues and they would find new and creative ways of expressing themselves, because I think we always, experiencing ourselves in separations means that we need to identify ourselves as what is our value, what is our worth.
What am I and what are you not? So.
Exactly, well said. And where are we separate, and what is the standing of that? And money is a very easy way that we can do that, but it's certainly not the only way. So if you track how you feel about whatever your money issue is, that you have it and you don't deserve it, that you don't have it and you do, whether it's a survival issue or whatever, if you track that, you're going to find something much deeper, you know, and we look to that in healing. You know, we look to bring that to the light and work with it.
Yeah, it's good. I think it'll be really good. Are we on?
Yeah.
Oh, you disappeared.
Yeah, we're rolling.
Sorry. We're rolling. Sorry, I'm falling asleep here.
Yeah.
Sleep at the... Well, I just, you know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about when we talk about our value and money and how money values us. And, you know, if you didn't have it, you're saying, if you take money out, how would it look? What would a community look like without money? Would there be people who would... it's just very interesting. My brain is moving along, so I'm sorry for have to edit that out, Dan.
No. It's part of. It's hard to imagine. You know, it's hard to imagine because we've put so much emphasis on money and money as a means for how we value ourselves. So yeah, you know, the first thing I think, oh well, you know, a barter system. Ooh, that'd be fun, and it would be, and yet I can imagine. Yeah, we'd have a lot of the same problems, wouldn't we? Because we would say, well, my service is of more value because we would make up whatever, and that's not a fair exchange because your service only does that. You know, I mean, there would be, if it's not the cost of this or that, well, then the exchange, you know, will be represented in a different way, and we can't live without exchange, nor do we want to.
No, I know.
You know,
I mean, Western Mass, they have something that they've devised. It's not exactly bartering, but it's like a bartering with they've made up their own money, you know, and they tried to get out of the banking system and do their own kind of banking too. So it's like there's lots of different ways that people are trying to.
Did it work? Was it successful?
And they're still doing it.
Right.
So it hasn't spread, but they're doing it in these little towns out there in Western Mass. So I don't know. And I think the whole idea of the banking system is something a lot of people would like to take a look at. What if we didn't have banks?
Well, and all of these they're just different ways of structuring money and structuring that exchange. And the moment you organize something, it's just going to have its own set of problems, isn't it? You know, benefits, services, of course. and problems. But the issues are fundamental. A provider issue, I would suggest, would exist whether or not you have currency. Then you have to go out and hunt and bring home enough food for your family. There's still a provider sense there. There's still a value in being a whatever other role, a homemaker or something like that.
One of the issues in this discussion that's coming up for me is how would we negotiate? Because isn't it really negotiation? And do we have the confidence to negotiate? Do we have the sense of self-worth to negotiate? Do we value others?
Right.
I mean, it brings us into a whole different league of conversations. If we didn't have money, how do you negotiate? What gets in the way of being successful? What supports success?
Yeah.
How about volunteers? They're a really important part of our society. They don't get paid. They do very valuable work.
Yeah.
And they get something out of it,
Oh, absolutely.
and they give something. They give and receive.
But once again, when you think about volunteerism, that's closer to unconditional exchange.
Right. Right.
And I'm wondering if that's really what's in part what we're talking about today. And we're talking about issues. This is an issue series.
Absolutely.
So what are the issues that become naked when the money is removed?
Yeah.
You know?
Survival will still be there.
Right.
And I have people, I've had once or twice someone ask me, because I teach a healing modality, and how could you possibly charge to teach this healing modality? Because it doesn't come from any of us, it comes from the divine.
Right.
And how can you charge for sessions, and how can you charge? And it's a valid question, but I can only answer, well, if I didn't charge to do it, then I couldn't do it full time. Because I'm not independently wealthy. I need to find a way to
earn a living,
to travel, to bring it to people. I need to find a way. So therefore, I have to charge. It's sort of part of the exchange setup. So, even in a situation like that, and I think it's wonderful to volunteer, but that volunteer, if you have that abundance to give in that way, well, hopefully that person also has enough to eat and all of that. Otherwise, you may not have the time to volunteer. Does that make sense? So
it makes sense.
Keep coming back to.
Ask Masha. Masha is a giver, server. She serves her fellow
Takes one to know one.
human beings. She does, and she always. And it's not about money. It's about the service and serving humanity, because she does it in so many different ways. So there's kind of a little bit of your question, what does it mean to serve another?
Well, okay.
What issues come up? What issues come up?
Exactly.
To have the capacity to serve another,
Right.
or to receive,
Right.
to offer.
Yeah. Here's something interesting about service, and what can be very confusing, because behavior can look the same on the outside but come from a very different place. You can serve, and I've seen you do this, from a place of unconditional love and volunteer and take action, and it's a beautiful thing. Someone could take the exact same action but come from a place of insecurity, needing to be loved, trying to make themselves feel better about themselves because they have their own shame. The action may look the same, and it may help and has value. I don't mean to admit, but where we come from when we're doing that is worth looking at regardless of the action, and that's much harder. Service can be a path to awakening, but it depends on how you look at it. Many people are thinking about, what can I do? What can I do? The real service is what needs to be done. You see, it comes from a very different place. Many people do the wonderful thing because it makes them feel better about themselves, and that's not bad. I don't mean to put it down, but it is something worth looking at.
Definitely.
Because when you really give something freely, it means that you have to be free from where you're giving it. And these issues, especially these money issues that we're talking about, point to the places where we don't feel free. You know, what are we doing regardless? Are you donating all that money to the hospital so that you can have your name on the building? You know, it's still a service, you know, it's that, but are you coming from that? For most of us, though, it's a mixture. I think most of us, we have that genuine love. And then, of course, as human beings, we have our issues as well. So it gets a little muddled, but it's worth looking at.
Yeah, I brought to mind a story. I worked at Rosie's Place for a period of time, and the volunteers came in from the community, and they would serve the lunch. And the guests were the people that lived in the area who didn't have food or, you know, needed a lunch. And I can always see this one woman, and so she's serving, and the guest comes up and said, and she said, you know, kind of had a little snooty attitude. And the guest said, you know what I think about your lunch? She throws it in the trash. And I said, now, that interaction was really very telling.
Yeah.
You know, because it was how she served and how she viewed the guest.
That's right.
They weren't equal in her eyes.
So this is beautiful. So what issues would be coming up? Lorraine, what issues?
The woman serving the food.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah. It can be, you know, it could be anything. I can only imagine because I'm not in this woman's head or in her heart. But, you know, if you're someone who has money and you want to show the world that you're really a good person,
Right.
volunteering is a great way to demonstrate to the world how generous you are. You know, that's not giving freely. That's, you know, that's a particular issue. Or
then,
if you feel guilty about having your money, which I think a number of people who have money feel they don't deserve it, well, then a good way to address that and behavior would be, you know, it could be volunteering or showing up in a little scene like this.
Right, and the need to be acknowledged.
Absolute, good one.
You know,
Good
and so I can see that. I could see that, you know, just observing that. And then the guest who's receiving it, you know, doesn't want to be in that position of receiving all the time. They like to be giving, you know, to see that that person needed an opportunity to give, not only to receive.
Sure, and certainly doesn't want to be condescended to.
Right, exactly.
You know, are you here because you want to be here, or are you here for your own purpose on any level, in any exchange? You know, that's not being present.
Right.
You know, and it's funny thinking about money. I realize, you know, there is very often a difference between old money and new money.
More
you know, the
judgment.
attitudes that come with families that have been, and status and all of that.
Generation to generation.
You know, that's loaded with identity as well. The idea that the old money, you know, there's this innate feeling that they're above, in a sense. They're more educated, they're more, you know, and society supports these ideas, so therefore they have to, you know, come down.
Right.
You know, it's a terrible generalization. I know plenty of people who've come from money who are free, giving, you know, but I'm just sort of looking at some of these ideas and exploring where our issues show up in them. That's
And
all
so
we're doing.
why would we want to deal with issues around money?
Well, why would we want to deal with issues at all is because they keep us in separation.
And that is not freedom.
That is not freedom.
Take that thought. This is Oneness and Wellness. We're working at the wellness and the oneness. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Lorraine Goldblum, and I'd like to invite you to the Issues series. And it's a way that we're exploring how issues keep us separate from each other and the world around us, and how we come out of that into freedom. I hope you'll join us.
Welcome back. We're here talking about the issue of money. And Masha's going to start with a really nice comment.
Well, a trick question, actually. And the trick question is whether you're a have or a have not. How does one find a sense of security and freedom no matter where they are?
It's a great question, and I don't exactly know, but I want to speak on it anyway, because I don't know that there's a particular right answer. I think it just speaks to freedom and what that is and where we can recognize it and how we can find it in our lives. So, we've talked about issues. We've talked about how issues keep us in separation, how they cut us off from the world around us, from each other, from our own sense of self. So freedom is really letting go of that, all right? The freedom is, very often we talk about freedom, it's being free from something. There's relief, I'm free from that. What we find freedom from are these issues, are these separations. So I would suggest, step one is what we've been talking about, seeing an issue for what it is, whether you're a have or whether you're a have not. Whatever that money issue is, how does it reflect in that deeper place? What is that identity it's creating? And are you willing to give that up? Are you willing to be free of that identity? Which is not so easy, because even if the identity is uncomfortable, it's still familiar.
Absolutely.
So when we let an identity go, when we let an issue go, we don't necessarily know what it's going to look like going forward, do we? And that's the scary part of transformation, the scary part of healing, and the scary part of awakening. Because we have this idea we're going to let go of our money issues, our identity issues, our shame issues, and we're going to be a better version of ourselves. But really, how we experience ourselves is really a compilation of all these other things. So the real freedom is to recognize issues for what they are, bring love to them, bring healing to that, awaken them energetically and in consciousness, and then be curious enough and courageous to see what's there. So then the freedom isn't just being free from what it was once attached to. The freedom is being what you are now. Does that make sense? Being what you've always been.
Yeah, I like it. I think
the
that's
thing about
great.
the issues is that they're distracting. They're nervous. A money issue, we put a lot of time and energy and thought and worry and stress and tension into a money issue, whether we're a have or a have not or whatever that looks like. It keeps us in this whole experience. When we put that down, well, then what do we have left, right? This is the conversation. What do we do? It's not really what do we do without money, what do we do without that issue? Well, then we stop and we take a look at what we really are, which is not a person and an experience of separation, which is really more divinity in form. And that's the awakening. And that's really what Vortex Healing is about. It's a lineage about awakening. It functions like a healing modality. We target issues. We bring energy and consciousness to them. But the real healing is waking up out of these identities, letting that go, bit by bit, issue by issue. You recognize I'm not my money issues. I'm not my shame issue. I'm not that. And then you kind of clear the decks in a way from all these distractions. And then what do you have left?
Me.
Well, you have far more than that, I would suggest. You have the divine experiencing yourself as that. So really what you have is that pure freedom, right? The thing that's untouched by all of that, which is really unconditional presence. Unconditional presence. So when we work with Vortex Healing, it's very functional. We target the issues, as we've discussed. And that's why I love the issue series, because it's a great way of defining those and looking at those. But every healing becomes an awakening. It becomes, oh, I'm not that money issue. I'm not that. And then it's a recognition of that true self with a capital S, not the personal self in struggle, but that divinity that brings itself out of the experience of separation. That's the awakening process. And so that's where we're going. The world is waking up. The world is moving towards a place where it's recognizing its stuff and wants to be free.
So
I
please
think.
clarify for me. Part of what I hear you saying is the capacity to be present
Yeah,
with whatever is.
that's right.
No judgment, just present.
That. Absolutely. Presence, in a sense, is the master healer. Our issues get in the way of that. Our issues distract us and they keep us in an experience. If we can heal from that, if we can awaken out of that, then we have exactly what we've always been, just pure presence.
So whenever we're in a moment of time or situation where being present is really difficult, we're preoccupied, we're anxious, we're distracted, we're not present,
Right.
we get to recognize an issue
Right.
that keeps us from our freedom,
That's right. Which is a gift.
which is an absolute
Yeah.
gift.
It's a humbling gift very often when we
Humbling?
recognize something like that. But yeah, it's the first step. Oh, this thing has really kept me out of the true presence. It's really kept me out of my relationship. So that's why we do our work. That's why we do our healing work. Not just to feel better, although we do. It's really about coming back to that. It's about coming to that. So in this series, I want to look at all the really good stuff, different issues that do that. So, shame, I wanted to start with. Money is always fun. But I'm thinking about other issues. I want to hear what you guys think, because I'm thinking another good issue to come up would be anxiety. I'm a big control. Yeah, we had a show of hands in the audience.
Control. That's a good
Control
one.
is a
Loss.
good one. Loss is huge. What other issues?
Intimacy.
Intimacy. Yeah. Basically, issues that keep us from allowing ourselves to be intimate is something. I was talking about how the money programs are always a good sell, and intimacy programs are always a good sell, with good reason, because that's good stuff. But I'd like to hear, what other, things you'd like to. I've struggled with deep insecurity, anger,
Yeah, anger, yeah, absolutely.
rage. Anger and rage are a good one because we don't like to admit that we have it. Because we don't think of ourselves as good people if we feel anger. So it's one of the ones that we... Judgment. Ding,
Big
ding,
one.
ding. Very nice. Absolutely. And the issues that are behind it. So, yeah. So this is all good stuff. And this is why we want to do this. Create a safe environment, right, among friends, right, to take a look at this stuff. What is it? How does it hold us? And how do we move past that? And we bring it to the light, we bring presence to it, and we have the courage to move forward.
Nicely said. That really is good information for all of us, on the journey, because we're all on that path. And it doesn't matter where you are on the path, it just matters that you just keep walking.
Yeah.
You keep growing.
Yeah.
Keep learning.
If we're here, we're on the path. Wherever we are on the path, moment to moment, but everyone
Is on the
here.
path.
Yeah, because we're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful, and we've going to have quite a few sessions here on
I hope so. We have quite a few issues. So we got stuff to talk about.
Issues. Well, and it would be nice at some point maybe to think about having someone come and present their issue, and have you maybe even though I know it wouldn't be enough time, but just to give them a little hint about how that would work.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
When people are watching the show and you have an idea, I would love this issue to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Let that know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a voice. Let us know what's important to you.
Right.
DedhamTV. Okay. Well, thank you all for
Thank you
being with
so
us.
much.
Really,
Thank
it's
you
been,
all.
and thank
been
you for
lovely.
sitting through all of this. Our guests, who are doing wonderful work out in the community. So keep up your good work, and let's all keep growing.
Freedom is good.
Namaste.
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 Thank you all.
Namaste. Namaste. Lovely group of